Welcome to Safe and Sound, a monthly podcast on cybersecurity, presented by GrandPad and the Leighton Podcast Network.
Welcome in once again to Safe and Sound. It is episode 2 of our podcast talking about keeping seniors safe on the Leighton Media Podcast Network, and joined, as always, by Scott Lien, the CEO of GrandPad. Welcome back.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, it's been fun. Been some exciting things happen with this podcast since last we sat down to do this. Not only is the podcast available now on the Winona Radio app, but it's also available through the grandpad.net, and we're also on Apple Podcasts, so nationwide. You feel any pressure on that, Scott?
No pressure at all. Hey, we got to get the word out.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. All right, so let's jump in and start doing that. You know, there's so many scams, and as we talked last time, that seniors, unfortunately, are targeted at. And since we last talked, what's new, or anything that you can bring us up to date with?
Yeah, sadly, the scams against seniors continues, and every day we learn about new approaches that the bad guys are using. And, you know, just as a recap, the last year in the U.S., there was more than $3.4 billion of fraud against seniors. I mean, a shocking number. But when you boil that down to each individual instance, like $120,000 per person. I mean, and those are the ones that get reported. So, you know, I recently presented to a group of, it was about 50, what I lovingly call super seniors. Everybody in the room was over the age of 75. And I said, how many of you have either been scammed or had scams attempted against you? Every single hand went up.
Wow.
Every hand.
Wow.
So it's, you know, for you personally or for your loved one, it's not if you're going to have a scam attempt against you, it's just when. And so what we want to do is give you tools to how to react to that, how to detect it and prevent it, because it can not only be financially catastrophic, but it is emotionally damaging. You lose. I mean, it's just, you know, you feel so violated. So, you know, we want to give everybody the tools to see it and prevent it. And really, we want everybody to help us spread the word, because all of us, the good guys and gals, we got to stick together to prevent the scammers, because if they're going to keep trying, and they'll just go somewhere else. If all of our listeners know how to detect it, then they're not going to get scammed.
Yeah, and, you know, we just to recap a little bit, we did talk last time, but I want to kind of talk about it again. But GrandPad you're on the front edge of protecting seniors.
We are. I mean, we've developed from the beginning. You know, we started the company for my mom and mother-in-law who were in their 80s, and said, how do we create a solution? And it's a tablet-based technology solution that's going to allow them to safely communicate with their family, friends, and caregivers and improve their quality of life, not be a way for them to get scammed. So that capability is built into GrandPad from the beginning. We focus on people age 75. The average age of our users is 85. So, you know, I want people to think about, you know, someone in their life that's over the age of 75, probably either frustrated by technology or just it doesn't help them. That's the person that we've designed GrandPad for, and it's everything, the hardware, the software, and the service, so that they can have fun and be connected.
Well, and I wanted, there's one last piece of kind of stepping backwards to where we left off last time that I think is really important. Is you mentioned that the seniors do get frustrated, and so they just tend to shy away from it, or they just ignore technology, or they're not able to embrace it, and that leads to loneliness. And, you know, I think we talked last time about the devastating health effects of just chronic loneliness.
That's right. Sadly, it's more than 50% of this age group, 75 plus, is chronically lonely, meaning they don't have enough connection with other human beings that they want. And sadly, oftentimes that's exacerbated by scams, because they get people calling them all the time, and appropriately so, they pull back. So they're scared to answer the phone. They don't recognize the number. They're scared of the emails. So then they get more and more isolated. And that leads to loneliness, depression. When people get down, they stop exercising, they stop eating right, they stop taking their medication, and all the downstream ill health effects from that kick in. There's validated medical research, not GrandPad's data, but outside research. Being chronically lonely for seniors is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
All the same physical health effects. So it's not just a feel bad thing, it really affects your health. So we're about how we can connect human beings, improve their quality of life, reduce that loneliness. It might be as simple as a video call on GrandPad to that great-grandchild. Being able to, we've had seniors who couldn't travel to a family wedding, and they were able to beam in and watch the wedding, be
Very
there
cool.
virtually, especially during COVID.
Yeah.
Just seeing pictures of grandkids, being able to listen to the radio on GrandPad. I mean, all the things that people want to do to stay connected, they can do. Our 24/7 customer care, all that makes it super easy. But we're all about connection and improving the quality of life for this age group.
And since you were last here, guess who got his Facebook page cloned?
Really?
You're looking at him. Yeah. I knew it was going to happen to me at some point. To your point, it's not a matter of if, it was when, and it finally happened. But I did what I think most people do, is change the password and move on. With that in mind, though, let's talk about some of the common scams that we're starting to see out there right now that are targeting seniors.
Yeah, sadly, the list is long of the types of ways that the bad guys attempt to scam us, and it is virtual, online, email, Facebook, social media. It of course is on the phone. It's in the physical postal mail. They'll send letters. We have people will show up at your door trying to scam you, right? So it's not just in the virtual digital world, and so but the triggers or the red flags to look for are similar, right? And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but kind of the buckets of the types of scams, a charity request where we want you to donate to disaster, and people sadly take advantage of. There's a hurricane in Florida and donate money, or the war in Ukraine, or some type of charity where they're tugging at your heartstrings. People want to help, and the bad guys are really quick. Like immediately, as soon as that bad disaster, natural disaster happens, they're reaching out to people. You're getting text messages, you're getting emails, you're getting phone calls. And so, and again, I'll talk about what you do to prevent that. Yeah,
if I can just pause for just a second on that. We all want to, when somewhere else in the United States gets hit with a natural disaster, whether it be a hurricane in the South or tornadoes across the Midwest, we all have that desire, especially if we've lived through any of those things, to want to help. And my thought has always been, just use the proven organizations. Use a Red Cross. Right. They're going to be there.
That's right.
So avoid the people that call you, and go with, if you want to help out hurricane victims in Florida, donate to the Red Cross.
That's right. The second bucket is the grandparent scam. So where the bad guys are impersonating your grandchildren, and they will sound like your grandchild. They'll have all kinds of information like, well, this has to be my grandchild because they know where they go to school, they know their major, they know the name of the dog, they know they're traveling, all this. That's sadly easy for the bad guys to get. So grandparent scams. Second is general internet fraud. So phishing emails, fake antivirus software, strange text messages, all these kind of things. I'll give an example of one that's sadly gotten to be very popular. It's the pet, or I call it the puppy scam. So, and it might be on Facebook, fake ads of, hey, here's 2 beautiful Bernedoodle puppies, for sale. Family says, oh, we've always wanted to get a Bernedoodle puppy. They click on it, they start inquiring, they, text message back and forth, they talk to a real human being. Well, there's only 1 puppy left. We need you to send $200 today to reserve that puppy. And they've got beautiful pictures. They've got fake papers. It all sounds so real. They've got a fake website. You send the $200, and of course there is no puppy. It's bad guys overseas. And then, okay, now we need $300 for the vet fees and the shots, and then we need $500 for the shipping. We recently heard of someone that just got sucked into that pet scam. By the time they were done, they were $20,000 in.
Oh, my
No
goodness.
puppy. And think how devastated. And the bad guys are absolutely ruthless. In this case, all of a sudden they were going to deliver the puppy tomorrow, but then the puppy got sick. The puppy's at the vet. If you don't send me $2,000 right now, the puppy's going to die. And I mean, can you imagine a family that's excited about getting the puppy, right? So pet scams are a big one. the fourth bucket, healthcare scams, they might pose as a healthcare representative or insurance or Medicare Advantage. We all know for seniors, Medicare Advantage sign up is always in the fall, and you get bombarded with information. Oh, sign up for this $20 seminar, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, once they get usually it starts out small. Once they get you to open their wallet, then they just keep coming and getting more. The next one is investment scams, enticing, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, invest in this stock, some type of investment scam with guaranteed returns. That's always a red flag. The other one, and this is probably the saddest of all of them, is people exploiting their position of power. And these can be people that you know and have known for years. And the latest one we've heard, and again, this is very difficult to even talk about because it's just so appalling that someone would do this. And this has happened here in our community in Minnesota. A priest took advantage of his position of power in the church and was reaching out to his parishioners to solicit them to. He had his mother was ill, supposedly. This was the fake story, and it is a scam. His mother is ill overseas. Here's this fake bill. I need $5,000. So, Brian, can you give me $5,000? Of course, the parishioner's like, yes, Father, we want to help you. We care. You're an important, we'll do a community fundraiser. Oh, no. We can't tell anyone. We got to keep this a secret. We can't tell the diocese. We got to keep. So right there's your red flag.
Right.
If it can't be out in the light of day, because we all know we've done fundraisers in the community, something bad happens. We're lucky to live in an area where people are very giving. But it's all out in the open. It's transparent. You know the situation. You know this person is ill. There's a financial hardship. Everybody's on board. And that's as we get to the solution, the test. If you can't put it in the light of day, if it's something you couldn't put in the paper or talk to other people about, it's got to be a secret and it's got to be right now. That's a red flag. And in this particular case that we're aware of and is being investigated by the police authorities, it was this clandestine. We got to keep this secret. We can't tell anybody, and we got to do it right now. That's a red flag. So, again, that's probably the saddest one, where people in a position of power or authority are using that position to defraud, in this case, members of their parish. And it could be anyone in a position of authority. Again, we want to help people. We're not saying don't help people. Of course you should. But it should be, things can be in the light of day, and there shouldn't be this hurry.
It's the modern day equivalent of the guy who pulls you up the alley and has watches up his arm.
Right. Exactly. It's all secret.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. I mean, and again, Scott, as you and I have talked about these things and you tell me about them and my head just spins, right? But what amazes me is that, and I think it's just because people are basically good, that it's easy for them to get sucked in. Right. And that's where they prey. They prey on good intentions.
That's right. Yeah, there's several factors. That for sure is one. People are caring. They want to help others. Especially, we live in the world, there's a lot of bad things going on. And when you can give to someone and truly help them, it makes you feel good. And of course, we want that to continue. But and seniors are some of the most loving, giving people. They've worked hard their whole life and accumulated wealth. And maybe they're thinking about, how do I, before I go, how am I going to help people? And so that's a natural tendency.
Some of them have been through depression,
right,
and understand hardship,
right,
and lived through it. And now, to your point, have accumulated nice wealth, and they appreciate when someone's struggling because they may have.
But I think the big difference is we live in the digital world and in a world with such amazing advanced technology like AI, which is being used in a lot of good ways. But the bad guys are using these tools to trick and exploit people. And so, again, I would say the old kind of adage of, criminals aren't so smart. It's just not true. These criminals are extremely smart. They're extremely sophisticated. They are using the best tools and technology because there's so much money at stake. And so it's impossible almost to tell fact from fiction on, is this fake or not? So, frankly, this is not an issue about people's age or they're not tech savvy and a younger person could have detected this. No one. Young people are getting scammed too. And so the same techniques I'll talk about now. Number one is education awareness. What we're trying to do here, get the word out. So it looked like when I told you the pet scam story, you hadn't heard about that. Now,
no, I haven't.
And I've told that story to many people, and then I tell it, and then somebody will say, you know what? I actually had a friend that got scammed that way. Like they got sucked into the pet scam. So, if we spread the word and talk about it, it's not meant to be doom and gloom, but it's just awareness. But second is verification. If someone, in the example I gave, where someone's soliciting you to help, give money to help pay medical bills for their sick mother, you should be able to ask some questions. Again, in this case, like we weren't talking about $5-10. We're talking about, $5,000, $10,000, major amounts of money. So of course you can always ask questions. Of course you can always ask for proof. Face to face, like you take the pet scam. If supposedly you're talking to a breeder who has these puppies, say, great, we're going to come over to your farm and we want to see the puppies in face. Well, it's a 4 or 5 hour drive. I'm busy, whatever. Nope. Take the time, see it with your own eyes, touch it, feel it, smell it. It's kind of, I say it's kind of back to the good old fashioned days. Like when you went into a store, you would see the merchandise, you would talk to the shopkeeper, you knew them, you knew they were reputable, you put cash on the barrel, and you knew that person would stand behind the product, right? The reputation. You had verifiable proof. That's what you need to get back to. Like if you can't see it, and if there's some red flags, it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So it's just good old-fashioned common sense.
Yeah, it seems that it's odd to say that, but again, we were talking at the time we're recording this was the Microsoft issue that went on today and shut down a lot of businesses. But our world has shrunk. But I think you make a great point is it easy to grab your GrandPad or your tablet or whatever, your laptop, and order something from Amazon? Yeah. And it's there in 2 or 3 days, or if you have Prime, it could be there the next day. But who stands behind that? And I think that's important that people need to remember, maybe go back to the habits of, if you can get it locally, even if it costs you a little bit more,
it's safer.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah, somebody that can stand behind it. And again, I had she was an elderly lady, owned her own home. And it's hard to get someone to come. In this case, she needed some trees trimmed and some bushes cut down and whatnot. And a scammer drove by, came, knocked on the door, said, yeah, I take care of this. Sure, how much is it going to cost? Well, to do all this is going to probably be about $1,000. She said, okay, great. And, well, I'll start right now. He went out and worked for about 10 minutes, did a few things, and he came and said, well, I've got to go to another job. I'll be back tomorrow, but I'll take a $500 deposit now. And then I'll come back and finish your job tomorrow. She wrote him a check. He went and cashed it right away. He never showed up again. She was out $500. So again, things like that where you go, no, I'll pay you as you go. When you finish the day's work here, I'll pay you then, or I'll give you a small deposit. But any of those kind of red flags, and just don't let people pressure you. And that's the other thing. The bad guys are so convincing. They're so good. They're masters of manipulation. And that's the hard part. People that have gotten scammed, even after they know they've gotten scammed, they still can't believe it. They're like, but I knew that guy was legit, and I knew that this story, and that's like, no, it is a scam. And it's really hard to accept that. I mean, it's like a magic show. You can't believe your eyes of what you're actually seeing happen.
Yeah.
So a few other techniques that I'd give is, to try to reduce the amount of inbound fake calls. It's good to be on the do not call list, because at least that will slow some of it down. And, you can go to the do not call.gov list. You can register there. And I've done that. It helps some. Sure doesn't hurt. It's pretty easy. For everybody who's online, and you mentioned Facebook, you got to use strong passwords, which is a pain, and it's hard because you got all these passwords. People are online a lot. You should have a password keeper that will keep track of all those, and it will generate long, unique passwords. But the biggest thing is two-factor authentication, sometimes called MFA, multi-factor. And Facebook has that. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that turned on, make sure you do. And I'll say, because I've done it, it's not easy to find. Like, where do you go do that? Find a tech person that can help with that. Get multi-factor. Because what happens then is, yes, you have a user ID and password, but then when someone's attempting to log in, it sends you a text message to your phone with a code, and you've got to enter that code. That by itself makes it much more difficult for the bad guys to hack your Facebook account or copy it and so on. So big believer in that. But the biggest thing is slow down, buy time. Something sounds too good to be true. It probably is. The other thing is, of course, when you get phone calls, you try to verify the number. is this my daughter's phone number that showed up? I will say it is easy for people to spoof phone numbers. So just because it says on your phone that it's your daughter calling you, if something seems strange, hang up and call her back and really, really be sure.
Yeah, I think, as I look back on episode 1 and listening to you now as we go through episode 2, there's an underlying theme. And that theme is, to me, it's the message we have to keep continuing to deliver month after month as we do this, which is slow down.
That's right. That's right. Ask questions, slow down. I mean, it's extremely rare. I mean, I've never had in my life where something is so urgent, like you got to send money to somebody right now.
Yeah.
Especially if some unusual thing, like somebody's like, I need you to go to the bank and wire money here. Like, that's never happened to me. So it's like, I'm just going to sleep on this. I'm going to, and I think having that trusted family or friend or it might be that neighbor that is a technology person that you can talk to and go, hey, Scott, does this sound legit to you? Like this, I got this phone call and gosh, they had so much information and it sounded so right, but I kind of smell a fish.
Does your team provide that?
We absolutely do. We are happy to help anyone. Even if you're not a GrandPad customer today, you can always call us. Our 800 numbers on our website, grandpad.net. You can call us anytime, 24 hours a day. A human being answers. It's my team, 800-704-9412. And just say, hey, I've got some questions. I feel like somebody's trying to scam me. What advice do you have? Our team will connect you to one of our security fraud experts. We started this company to protect my mom and my mother-in-law and now the tens of thousands of seniors. We think of them as our own family, and we want to help protect them.
Let's talk about, it's kind of where we started at the top of this conversation, which was it's not a matter of if, it's when. So sadly, you and I are going to keep telling this story month after month after month, and hopefully we get through and we slow people down and we get them doing it. But if it does happen, then what?
Yeah, if it does happen, first, again, communicate with friends or family, someone you trust, and don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. It's happened to so many people. I mean, and everyone's been attempted, and so people can relate to it. Report it to your local authorities first, and sadly, they are seeing so much of these kind of issues. They've gotten very good at helping people. They know a playbook. They want to help people, and even though they might not be able to recover the money, they're able, for you, the more information they have, and then they can spread, because there's always new scams, like this pet or puppy scam, like that's really taken off. You get the word out, the authorities are used to it, they then will help publicize it in the community and say, be on the lookout. We've all
not necessarily mention you,
right?
You're going to be protected.
That's right.
But they're going to get the word out to slow it down.
They're going to get the word and say, "Hey, look out!" In our community, again, we've had in the community I live in where people are going door to door. The police quickly get the word out. Everybody's on the lookouts. So local authorities first, and then depending on what the scam is, they will advise. Like some things are reported to the FBI. Some things, if it involves banking and wire fraud, it gets reported as separate people. But all of that does help. And at the federal level, they're accumulating these things. And you see it every few months. They find out who the kingpin, the person at the top is, and whether they're in the U.S. or overseas. Eventually, they'll get them. And it's all the little bits of data that we all provide that helps them figure it out. So, we can't give up. We got to keep fighting back, and we got to just educate ourselves so that we can prevent this problem.
One of the things that strikes me coming out of today's conversation is when I think about these scams, I always think it's somebody overseas. But you've brought this very much to the front door today, and that's disturbing.
Yeah, it can happen in our own community, in small towns, and so it's local, it's national, it's international, and again, there's so many good people in the world. By spreading the word and we kind of band together, we can prevent the problem.
And I think the other thing is, and I like the way you said that, band together. So we just have to keep sharing, we have to keep talking, we have to keep letting people know. And to your point, sadly, there's people even that we trust now going down that road in the story you told earlier. So if there's anything that I, on the other side of this, like a listener, got from you today, it's clearly slow down. You made that clear again for the second now episode in a row. And I think the other thing is put it to the light test or put it to the smell test, whatever you want to call it. If they don't want you to bring it into the light of day,
that's a red flag.
That's a problem. Yeah. That's a big problem.
That's right. That's right. Talk it over. And by having it be part of the conversation, whether it's like me, the 50-year-old son, talking to my 80-year-old mother, it's just part of our conversation, awareness, and say, hey, Mom, you're going to get these phone calls. And, when you get those, just slow it down and hang up and call me, and let's just talk about it. And I'm not going to judge you. And, this is one of the fears that seniors will have.
Sure.
Like, my kids will think, like, I'm starting to, not be able to think through these things on my own. No, Mom. I love you. You help me.
Yeah.
I help you. We're a family. Don't worry about it. So you kind of set that expectation so that when Mom or Dad are having an attempted scam, they don't feel embarrassed to call you, the kids, and talk about it.
And there's something else that I think I'm going to bring it up every time we do one of these from the first episode, and I want to remind everybody of it again in episode 2, and it fits right into what you were just talking about, the family code word.
Right. Yeah. So it's good to have a code word that no person could figure out. So it shouldn't be the name of the dog or mother's maiden name or these kind of things, because the bad guys can figure all that stuff out. So you come up with a code word that when there's something like you get the strange phone call and you're like, is this really my grandson? Boy, it sounds just like him. I'm not sure. I'm going to call him back. Step one, he answers. And then, like, what's the code word? And if they don't know that, like, what's going on here? And also, sadly, there's also things, this is an extreme, but where there's a kidnapping or something like that and someone's under duress, maybe it is a real person, but they will give you the code word that indicates like there's a problem. So I think just talking through that and being ready for those situations will prevent a lot of problems.
What's the last word?
Hey, the thing that I say is think about that super senior, the person in your life who's over the age of 75, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, neighbor, aunt, uncle. Just give them a call today. Call them on their phone. Hopefully you can call them on their grandpad, do a video call with them. Just ask them, how are they doing? What's going on? I know we're all busy, but we all have these little things in our pocket. We're driving down. You can call somebody, and number one, it will brighten up their day. But number two, it just keeps that chain of communication open. So when they have something on their mind, they'll call. Oftentimes when I do that, they go, well, by the way, Scott, I was going to say, I got this strange phone call from this guy this morning. Do you think, and it's a scam, but they didn't want to bother me and call me. Sure. But then when I open up the door, then they bring it up.
Amazing number of times that I heard my mom say, well, I didn't want to bother you. Right? We've all heard it from our moms. It's we and dads, and we need them to bother us. Scott, thank you again. As always, Scott Lien, the CEO of GrandPad, here on Safe and Sound on the Leighton Media Podcast Network. We will talk to you again next month. Stay safe.
Safe and Sound is a monthly podcast presented by GrandPad and the Leighton Podcast Network. Find this and other podcasts on demand at WinonaRadio.com.